Hey, good morning. So I posted on Monday that I was starting just a new 6 week challenge for myself. 6 weeks to get a little bit leaner, and I think I'm always pretty healthy, but you can always kind of tweak it out a little bit. So people ask, well, will I be sharing my routine? I'm going, well, it's not super complicated, but I'll explain to you why I do the things I do. And there's, you know, quite often I hear this time and time again, where people keep saying that, I only want to use, like, I just want to live on real food. Like, I just want to live on supplements. Well, I don't live on supplements. I live with them. They're a big part of my diet day to day, but I don't live on them because I actually do eat real food, right? Because otherwise my teeth would just fall out. But I did a post, and if you look at it, if you scroll down my page, you'll see why, for me, it's so important. And I think for so many people, supplementation of some form to fill in nutritional blank spots is really, really crucial. And and it's a challenge that I think people, we don't, I think we're just, maybe we're just kind of naive, or maybe, it seems too expensive, or maybe it just seems too much effort. But the challenge that I see quite often is that as people get older, it's not the aging process that's the problem. It's the behavior over time is the problem. So it's not that I'm 56, it's what I did over the 56 years, right? So that becomes inherently the challenge. And I know, as I wrote in my post, that there was a big period of time, there's, well, almost, let's say, a 33-year period of time where, I was really hard on my body. The first part of it was just garbage food, drugs and alcohol, and just, crazy lifestyle up until 28. And then from 28 onward, it was, hard work, hard training, just really pushing myself. And even though I was eating healthy and I was doing lots of the right things, I never fully recovered from my previous lifestyle. So I was actually adding stressor to stressor to stressor. Now, it would have been much worse for me if I hadn't changed lifestyle at all. I mean, I'm sure I'd have a host of problems that would be life-threatening at this point, considering the insanity at the level I was living. But so with my morning routines, anyhow, it's I've chosen, picked up a water machine several years back. And this water machine, it really, of course, it gives me really beautiful water, but it also makes it very alkaline. So the water I'm using is at 9.5 pH. So it's quite alkaline. And the water is very, very pure. So, and considering I'm 70% water, right? I figure that's always a good plan, right? The most abundant, let's say, macronutrient in the body is water. And so if 70% of what I am is water, I want to make sure I take strides, make sure it's as clean as possible. The other thing, of course, is I use a meal replacement, and I use my meal replacement mainly because the ease of consumption, for one, because it's for me to sit down and to prepare 5 or 6 meals throughout the day. It just doesn't seem to work in my schedule, and it's kind of impractical. And I hate saying that because it makes it sound like I'm lazy, but really it lacks the practicality. But more importantly, it actually lacks in nutritional density. And we've heard this from time and time again that you would have to eat 22 plates of spinach to get the nutritional quality that one bowl of spinach would have given you, let's say, 30, 40 years ago. And I grew up in an organic hobby farm, so I know that to be true. So I use a meal replacement, and I go back and forth between organic whey and organic plant-based. But I can't stay on either consistently because my body just gets irritated if I have too much of the same thing over and over again. And I'm finding I'm having to really kind of work my way through that process. So I use an organic meal replacement which has, of course, my proteins in it, my protein content, my vitamin mineral content. It has dietary fats in the form of dried fats, right? So powdered sunflower oil and that sort of thing. It has dietary fiber, of course, and prebiotics. And so again, it's really, it's very comprehensive. There's a lot of nutrition in there. I trained this morning, so my body's looking to look at perhaps repairing some of the damage I did if I trained hard enough, and also just to replace some of the energy I used, right? So the meal replacement makes it really simple, right? And what I have in here is a combination of greens, I like the greens for the alkalinity and of course for the nutrition, but it's the combination of both. The alkalinity, which is something I want, because my protein content is fairly high in my diet, and training is acidic because when you train, what do you generate? Lactic acid, right? So training training creates acidity in the body. A high protein diet and a diet's a bit high in fat also creates a bit of acidity. So I try to balance it out with a little bit more alkalinity. Of course, like I said, my water is at 9.5 pH. I use the greens, of course, which help with the alkalinity. I also have in here creatine monohydrate and an adaptogen blend. Right, so creatine monohydrate I use. Creatine actually is pretty extraordinary. I use it primarily because it helps actually hydrate the body. So you'll find historically, I mean, God, many years ago when I started using it, so in the first week or so, I'm using creatine, especially if you loaded it, like taking 10 to 15 grams a day for the first week, and then 5 grams up beyond that point, is that the body your muscles became very hard because the creatine was being forced into the muscle belly, and of course it drew a lot of water into it, make the muscles very dense. So anyhow, I won't get into creatine. Go look. Creatine is quite extraordinary for neurological disorders, for general health issues. It's a pretty extraordinary supplement. The adaptogen blend I put in there, and adaptogens are just that, they help the body adapt, right? They help the body become more resilient to stressors because the plants that are used grow in environments that are very stressful. So the plants become very hardy and they learn how to survive, right? So our body's being taught how to become more resilient to stress. And exercise is a form of stress. Go figure, right? So if I put an adaptogen blend in my post training meal replacement, then the assumption is, and this is my own theory, this is my own thing. So it's not like you're going to say, well, show me the proof, David. Well, I'm making an intelligent leap in logic here. If I use an adaptogen blend after a stressful period of time of training, then the likelihood is that my body will get cues from the product, from the adaptogen blend to recover faster, right? So I become more resilient to training, which means I can recover faster, which means I probably get better gains and I can train harder, right? So it's really kind of a self-fulfilling process. Again, the greens for the alkalinity, which is very important. The complex meal replacement to give me all the bits and pieces, so that I'm supporting in many networks in the body at the same time, not just the production of muscle. So that's kind of that's a pretty typical every morning kind of routine for me. And then I generally have probably 3 meal replacements a day, and I'll have 2 main meals, right? 2 meals, and then I may have a snack along the day, throughout the day as well. And that'll vary back and forth as far as the total content, but it's one of these things where, and my biggest criticism the last 14 months is that the powers that be never talk about nutrition, right? Never talk about how important it is. I have vitamin D here, which I've already had this morning, and I take about almost 6,000 to 7,000 international units of vitamin D. And the reason why I take so much, of course, is genetically my body does not absorb vitamin D well. So, and I've had my genetic profile mapped out a few years back, and I know that's one of my body's tendencies, right? So I have to really load up on a lot of vitamin D. And again, it's very important because I live in the northern climate here in Canada. We don't get a tremendous amount of sun. And vitamin D, of course, is super important. It's actually not a vitamin. It's actually a pro-hormone. And there's so much beautiful research around it, and just thousands of articles. There's so much research around vitamin D. And the fact that it actually is not being utilized for the general public I think is amoral and deplorable. And I'll say it again, it's amoral and deplorable, the fact that we're not actually, especially in northern climates where we don't get a lot of sun, that this isn't on everybody's nightstand, and this isn't in everybody's face, and it's not in our children's. It's just the fact that the powers that be don't recommend this. And in Canada, I can get tested for anything. Like I went and had a battery of blood tests done here recently, and I actually have to pay to get my vitamin D tested. Isn't that strange? Right? Living in a part of the world where we don't get a tremendous amount of sun, and how important vitamin D is for mental health, how important vitamin D is for protection against respiratory challenges. Go figure. This should be on the front line but you know, can't say anything about it, and it gets pushed off to the wayside because, well, there's no money in vitamin D, and I hate that I think that way, which is really frustrating. Because, but I can see no other reason other than, you know, there's no money in vitamin D, but it's an extraordinary. And I also have zinc that I take. I would take about 50 milligrams. I think it's 50 milligrams of vitamin D daily as well, a single tablet. And again, it's looking after respiratory, so my respiratory health. So that's kind of my morning routine. And here's the interesting thing: my 3 meal replacements that I have and my 2 meals. My nutrient load is probably, I would say, it's 600 to 700 times greater than the average person's. Right? You hear that? My nutrient load, how much nutrition I get in my body is probably 600 to 700 times greater than the average human being, right? The average person. And people, think it's just genetics. Yeah, I have genetic potential for longevity. I also have my genetic markers. If I look at them, when I look at the breakdown, I have a propensity for Alzheimer's. I have a propensity for obesity and diabetes. I have propensity for what else is there? Yeah, I think those are the major risk factors. So if I choose a lifestyle other than what I have, the risk factors for obesity exist, right? So my body would probably put on weight way faster than I would ever care to. So I have risk factors like so many other people for. I have risk factors for so many different things, right? When I look at my genetic report, it's my lifestyle choices that will either turn those genes on or keep those genes dormant, right? So why wouldn't I, knowing that and knowing that I control it consciously, day to day through my dietary behaviors, why would I not make strides to stay as healthy as possible? It's my choice, right? And and I have a lot of friends and clients within the medical field, and and it's just not their wheelhouse, right? So if I need a hip surgery, I know some great orthopedic surgeons, but when it comes to general nutrition, it's just I don't understand the landscape. I don't understand why it's so complicated and why well, maybe I do, but I hate the fact that I think that we're not being given information because it's just it's just impractical. It's just impractical because, well, here at the end of the day, one of the things that I guess we have to realize that it's just people are so deeply entrenched in their lifestyles, right? People are so deeply entrenched in their lifestyles that they do not make the personal choice to wrestle control of their chaotic trajectory to do something different, right? And so, and all fairness, and I can't believe I'm even saying this, all fairness to government agencies, all fairness to doctors, to the medical industry, if I'm going to give them any slack, it's still our fucking choice, pardon my language. You cannot look in the mirror, you cannot look in your fridge, and you cannot look in your cupboards and say for one moment that, if you look at it and saying, oh, that's perfectly okay, right? That explains everything. It's not, the lifestyle isn't super simple. Lifestyle isn't easy by any stretch, but nothing in life is easy necessarily, but it's a choice. And I don't know, I think it's, I keep thinking about that Mother Teresa's quote that I keep bringing forth time and time again, is that if everybody just swept their own back step, the whole world would be clean. And I think nutritionally, it's just, you'll figure it out. And you continue until when? Until you freaking figure it out. Like, what are the choices? Either to get sick and die and spend, you think about it, right? I'm 56. So if I wasn't controlling my health, if I hadn't invested the time and continued to invest the time, what's going to happen in the last 15, 20 years of my life? It's just going to be freaking terrible. It's going to be disgusting. It's going to be terrible. I'll be limping along, and with the knowledge that I set it up, with the knowledge that I created all these problems, and I allowed myself to be willfully blind and chose not to get my shit together. I was willfully blind, didn't ask for help, didn't lean into the discomfort, right? And there's so many people heading that way, and it's really unfortunate. So, like I said, if I was going to give government agencies, and I don't do this very easily, or the medical machine, cut them any slack, they're basically doing what the people want them to do. Make it easy for them, right? 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 Isn't that what 61% of the population wants? They want somebody to make it easy for them, to tell them that it's not their fault. Seems to be that way, because that's what we see, right? Everybody's lining up saying, "Oh God, I don't have to change anything, right? It's not my fault. You don't know my story." Well, you know what? Guess what? Nobody gives a shit about your story. Honestly, right? Nobody really does, because it's your story. I can empathize, but I can't save you, right? We are given the burden. We were born beautiful and perfect, given the burden of responsibility to care for this thing. And if we choose to be willfully blind, then that's on us. Because there's all the help in the world out there. Now, I spent over 30 years inside this conversation. And, and it's not perfect, right? It's not a straight line. There's just lots of considerations to make, and mistakes to make, and things to, fall over, and things to overcome. But, it's an interesting journey. But, I don't know how else to play it out. And it's not a matter of, poking people in the eye and saying it's your fault. And it's not making people feel bad, but it's just, giving the opportunity. So somebody asked me, after I posted on Monday, would I be willing to show my morning routine? Well, this is kind of my morning routine, and this is how I think. And I hold myself under the gun as well. I hold myself accountable. And I've got some autoimmune issues that are with my liver. So if you see my arms here, this is, I think stress had set it up. So I have an autoimmune thing that kicked in about 15 years ago, and it's never quite sorted out. So, the medical community, dermatologists tried, and you know what their best bet was? Topical chemotherapy cream to burn off the top layer of my skin. You're going, Jesus, right? Is that the best you got? So anyhow, I'm ranting here. And here's my one last thing here. This is not a massive urine sample, by the way, because I really should need to be seeing a doctor. This is actually chaga tea. And it's a mushroom that actually grows on birch trees in northern climates. And so I make an adaptogen tea that I drink throughout the day, or sometimes I'll put it into my shake. And so again, like I said, I pull all the stops out. I'm trying to make sure that I have enough adaptogen products to really soothe my nervous system. I use breathing techniques like the Wim Hof method, which is very, very amazing. I have lots of really interesting things I add to my lifestyle day to day. So it's not just one thing. There's lots of things going on. Anyhow, I'm going to shut up here. I'm babbling. So that's the start of my day. And you already know how I think, right? Not to be provocative, but I don't want to see people 20 years from now, run into them somewhere and they're on their walker and they're going, dude, I wish I had to lean into the discomfort when I had the chance, when my body had the opportunity to fight back. So if your body's in that place and your body's willing to fight back and you haven't pushed it so far that it's irretrievable, today is a good day as any day to get it together, right? And you always have lots of support. I'm never going to criticize you necessarily, but I can't save you either. You actually have to think and know that your health in your future is worthwhile leaning into and bearing the discomfort of getting started, because that's the hardest part. All right. Have a great day, guys. Bye.